This is the Developmental Journal for babies and young children with visual impairment. It comes, or originally came, as a folder, fairly thick, and it's now online. So this is the original Developmental Journal, and the one that you probably have in your service if you work either in Scotland or England. So let's have a look inside. So this is the front cover, which I will come back to, and then we have the introduction book. And there are a few parts in here that I wanted to draw your attention to. So over here on the left, how the material is organised. So in this journal, you are looking at areas of development under 5 relatively broad categories. The first one, and it's all colour coded, in pink is social and emotional development. In green, communication, language and meaning. In red, play and learning. In orange, movement and mobility. And in a purple colour, towards independent self-care. The journal itself is divided into stages, as you can perhaps see from the tabs on the edge of the binder here. So I wanted just to explain what these stages actually mean, and that can be found on page 26 of that introductory book if you're ever looking for it again. Let's try and move that across. So stage 1A is for children 0 to 6 months if they have limited vision, or 0 to 4 months if they were fully sighted, in which case you probably wouldn't be using this journal. 1B for 4 to 12 months. Stage 2 for 8 to 18 months. Stage 3 is 15 to 24 months. Stage 4, 21 to 30 months. And stage 5, 27 to 36 months. It does state very clearly in this journal that it is to be used and held by parents. So materials are designed to be held and used by families in recognition of the essential role parents play in the life of young children. So there it is written here in black and white. There is other information here at the back and suggestions for further reading as well. So it suggests here in the book, I'm going to show you just a little example of how you can keep a record. And it's shown here. I'll turn this round. So this page here shows how a record can be kept as the child progresses through the stages. The parts that are shaded in pale blue here are not applicable at that stage. So for example here, using the toilet is not applicable at stages 1A, 1B, 2 and 3. Understanding language and communication, not applicable at stages 1A and 1B. The parts here that have been shaded in the colour, the different colours are just to denote different times that the grid has been completed to show progression over time. I would suggest that colours are helpful, are nice, but there's no key to actually show what that means when they were filled in. So really they would need to be dated as well, just to keep track. Now the blank grid is found right at the beginning of the journal to the rear of the very front page here. So child's name, date of birth goes on the front, and then the blank version. Let's turn this whole thing round. Sorry, I realise I feel quite sick when I bash it there. There we have the blank version of the grid of the developmental profile. Now, given that this is held by families, and indeed families may decide not to complete it, it's perhaps worthwhile also having a photocopy yourself that you can fill in too, should it be that the families decide, as I say, not to complete it. So let me now give you an example of how this works. So let's just take stage 2 for example. So here is the booklet that deals with stage 2. I'm going to take it out as a ring binder, make it a little bit easier. Hopefully I won't bash the camera. So here we have the stage 2 booklet. And if I go in and take something almost at random, let's look at the play and learning section. So that's in red. And then if we look down, we have our developmental goal, and this is learning about sound. In the booklet, that can be written in, obviously, we can use activity cards 5 and 6, which I'll show you in a moment. And when we're learning about sound, what we're particularly doing is reaching out to source of sound and locating in correct direction to reach to each side at ear level. So we look at activity card 5 for suggestions. We can mark this off if we think the child is possibly doing it, again with the date, and when they're definitely doing it, and again we would date that. But there's a nice box here where you can add in other comments, and again it would be the parents that would be adding it, not you as the TVI, unless of course the parents asked you to do so. But you'd ask the parents to complete what sorts of things the child was doing in order to meet these targets. Now, if parents are actually not very sure, at the back there's this plastic wallet which is filled with all of the cards, and here we pick the correct one. It's card 5, playing and learning, making connections, learning about sound. That was the same heading that was in the book. Then we now have a suggestion where it says offer a sound making toy within arm's reach to the left or right side at ear level and help your child reach for it, and so on. So it gives lots of different things there, and this is learning about objects, and object permanence is the next item in the folder. And there were some further ideas as well, in particularly for reaching to each side, which can be found on card 6. So you have to make sure that you cross-reference these carefully. So that is how all of the booklets in this original print copy work. Now back to the folder. So you work through each section sequentially, and at the front it did say that you could mark off a section as being complete when the child was definitely doing 80% and above of the activities suggested for each section. Now, there is a separate section in the book here, or in the folder rather, for a record of developing vision. And just with the cards, there are separate cards as well that deal with vision, and I have them over here. Let's bring them in. So here is card 1, and we're working within 1/3 of a metre, so 33 centimetres or less, and it tells you how to hold the child and what to do. Now you will see that there are some things that may be familiar that were mentioned in previous lectures. We're talking about an oogly on a pen torch, so a little character stuck on top of a torch. And this very much comes from Patricia Sonksen, as that we mentioned on day 2 as well. And again, we're moving on, and she's talking about spinning, colourful ball, and for example, woolly pom-pom. So that Sonksen scale of detection is referenced here, although if you don't know about that, then you don't realise what the connection is. So Again, we've got a book within the folder telling us about vision and the first record, what sorts of things that you should be doing. The card obviously there to support that. So it's talking about visual awareness. Let's move this up. Visual awareness, alerting, eyes widening, alert expression, change in body tone. So again, possibly, definitely, and an opportunity for parents to write and things. So again, working within a third of a metre, aware of a glowing light in a dark room, and so on. All of these, and these relate to the card as well. And other things, and as the child gets older, there is assumed progression of vision. Now, I say assumed because although stimulating vision will help many children, depending on the visual impairment, sometimes sight will not develop. So, for example, if there is significant damage to optic nerve, if there is something like Leber's congenital amaurosis, where the structures of the eye are not properly developed, and there's damage to the macula, vision is not going to improve. However, if that's not the case, then there are a range of various things that you can do. And in record 3 here, it's talking about detects a raisin or a Cheerio of 1 centimetre, and so on. So that is the vision section. By record 4, we're looking at photographs of familiar faces. There's also a helpful book here on general development as well of children, because you don't know if development is perhaps unusual if you don't know about the general development of children. So some just basic information and the impact of visual impairment has on development as well. Lots of good hints and tips towards independent self-care, for example, and approaches and strategies to help with learning as well. Breaking into small steps, for example, and a couple of very interesting paragraphs here about backward chaining and forward chaining. If you don't know what that is, I really would suggest that you get your hands on the journal and have a look, because you can apply this forward and backward chaining to many skills, from getting dressed to putting paper in a brailer. So very, very helpful there. Advice about toys and materials, and explaining about development of babies and young children with limited vision. This is really a section for the professionals and parents as well. So that's that book. Then we have this book here with ideas if a child has got stuck at something particularly, and there are many ideas. If it's difficulties with movement and mobility, difficulties with behaviour, sleeping difficulties, so eating and feeding difficulties, so they're general issues as well. They do say that the journal can be used with children and young people who've got more complex needs, and it would then go beyond the age of 3. However, sometimes, depending on the complexity, it may be that children will become stuck and will not be able to move on because of their additional problems. There's a helpful glossary at the back as well. This is the large folder where all the cards are stored. So that was a very brief tour through the Developmental Journal.